What's up, everybody? Josh Armijo here. I hope everybody's doing good and well and stuff. I got an album review to do for you, and I'm going to show it to you right now. This is the new album from the band Blut Aus Nord, entitled Memoria Vestusta, Saturnian Poetry. This is released on Debemur Morti Productions. Now, if you're not too familiar with this band, they are based out of Mondeville, France, and the best way to describe the sound of this band would be a very experimental, avant-garde, and buck-trending style of black metal. This is a band that honestly needs no introduction when it comes to the French side of black metal. This is a band that always loves to try different things and create different musical soundscapes, whether it be traditional sounding, or ambient, or industrial, or just straight out weird. Blut Aus Nord have always delivered the goods and just made music on their own terms and tried to be something completely different. And for the better part of the last 2 decades or so, I would say this band has been on the righteous warpath, delivering some incredible black metal. From their full-length albums from the early 90s to their mid-2000s work to pretty much the later 2000s where they were beginning to become more and more dominant. Most notably, the 777 and what once was Liber 3-part releases. I was a huge fan of the 777 releases, 2011 Sects, 2011's The Desanctification, and 2012's Cosmosophy. Really awesome experimental takes on black metal with just the hints of ambient and industrial sides to it. The What Once Was EPs, just delving deeper into the industrial roots, just sounding straight out evil and nasty. And then we get to another set of releases that this band has been putting out, and that has been the Memoria Vestusta releases. The first one was released back in 1996, entitled Fathers of the Icy Age. That was an amazing album in its own right. And then we didn't get another Memoria Vestusta release until 2009 with Dialogue with the Stars. Another really amazing level into this band's already wide discography. And now we enter into 2014, and it's been quite a busy year for Blut Aus Nord. Not only this release, which I'm about to talk about, but there's also been another EP that they came out with in celebration of the label that they were on, and a split with a band by the name of Phobos. Really awesome stuff. But now we have the third installment in the Memoria Vestusta series from Blut Aus Nord, and this is their 10th full-length album overall, entitled Saturnian Poetry. From the minute I saw the artwork and what was going to be presented for this album, I was very hyped up and excited. Because these guys are so unpredictable, you never know what you're going to expect from Blut Aus Nord, and here they are with Saturnian Poetry. It's 7 tracks, and it clocks in at around 48 minutes in length. And honestly, this is the prime example of an epic black metal record. I know some people aren't really too fond of the term epic when it comes to certain metal styles, but when you listen to an album like Saturnian Poetry, you definitely will understand why I would consider this to be an epic black metal release. Because it just feels so triumphant, and it feels so genuine and from the heart. This is a classic, melodic, beautiful piece of black metal being put on display here, and definitely a return to the older Blut Aus Nord style. Almost, I can sense a pre-Blut Aus Nord sort of vibe with this release, back when they went under the guise of Vlad. I mean, just some incredibly old school and meaningful sounding black metal. And I've heard a lot of really amazing black metal releases this year, but this one right here from Blut Aus Nord is definitely one of the very best, and I would say this is probably a career triumph for Blut Aus Nord as a whole. This album is so dominated by Vince Vaugh's riff work and guitar playing. It is just such a domineering, commanding presence throughout the entirety of this record. I mean, once you hear it on tracks like Pain and Forheast, you just get some incredibly beautiful, sweeping guitar playing. It's just so marvelous sounding, almost cinematic in a way. Um, Definitely the way the riff work is being displayed here, the lead work, the melodies, it almost gives you a sense of entering a dissection emperor record of some sorts. You get those instances of just straight out guitar playing beauty here, and that is something that is very notable when listening to Saturnian poetry, is just the beauty of the guitar work. It's melodic, it's somber, it's meaningful, and it definitely will tug at your heartstrings in certain instances, especially towards the more closing moments of this record. Most notably, the last two tracks on here, Metaphor of the Moon and Clarissima Mundi Lumina. Just some beautiful guitar playing here, and I definitely think this is a near tour de force sort of work going on here with the guitar playing. Um, Drum wise, I believe they have a new drummer being added to the ranks here. His name is Thorns, and I believe he's been playing with the more recent Blut Aus Nord releases, and this guy is just such a maniac behind the drum kit. He definitely adds to the more cinematic aspects of this record. I mean, it's mainly primarily dominated by really creative fills, lots of double bass, lots of blast beats. It definitely has that old school mid early to mid 90s sort of black metal feel when it comes to the drum work, and I think he just delivers a very sensational job. He is a very formidable drummer, and I know he plays drums in a lot of really well-known bands from around the world, and his performance here on this new record is just so marvelous. It is a joy to hear him play the drum style in the way that he does, especially when it begins to get a little bit more on the melodic side of things. I definitely think this is a very astute and powerful drum performance put on by Thorns. I think he really does amazing work here. And one other thing to point out about this record is the artwork. I mentioned Dissection and Emperor and maybe even Sacramentum to a certain extent. The artwork here done by Necrolord is just so beautiful. I mean, you can see the Blut Aus Nord logo here, but I don't think you would need a band logo to see something as beautiful as this. It's a very lush and beautifully painted piece of artwork here, and definitely something that is meaningful to this album's story and style. I just think it's amazing artwork, and it's just so beautiful to look at. And moving on to the vocals, once again going to Vince Vaughn here, I think his vocal style is just amazing. He has this almost high-pitched sort of croaking style of delivery when it comes to the vocals, and for the majority of the record, he just delivers some very powerful vocal stylings. I love his delivery, I love his style, and I especially love when he ventures into more beautiful singing sort of moments. It definitely feels melancholy and from the heart, and I love what he brings to the table with the singing vocals going on here, especially going towards the second half of this record. I just think it's just amazing the level of emotion that he brings into his vocal style. Whether it's done in his native French language or even the English language tracks, I just think he just delivers a very virtuoso vocal performance here, and probably one of the best vocal performances I've ever heard Vince Vaughn do on a Blut Aus Nord record. I mean, I say that this band is very unpredictable, and with Saturnian poetry, I think the unpredictability here just reaches some unique sort of levels here. This is just a near perfect piece of melodic black metal. It definitely reminds me of old school releases. I mean, it definitely reminds me of Dissection and Emperor and all those other great bands of that ilk. Saturnian Poetry is just another amazing album from Blut Aus Nord, and definitely one of the most beautiful pieces of black metal I've heard in 2014. if you're a fan of what Blut Aus Nord have done in the past, if you're a fan of the previous Memoria Vestusta releases, if you're a fan of anything this band puts out in general, Saturnian Poetry is just near perfection. It just... I wish this album didn't end so soon. I mean, it's a 48-minute long album, but you just wish there was more to be heard here. And I do think there is a lot more to be heard from this style of Blut Aus Nord. I hope they continue on with it. Or, who knows, they may do a 180-degree turn and do something completely different. But this is a band that doesn't play by the rules. They do things their way, and they have delivered something very special here with Saturnian Poetry. So, I'm going to leave you some links in the description box as to how you can get a hold of this album and listen to it. I will link you to the Debemur Morti Bandcamp, where you can stream this album in its entirety, hear it for yourself, and be your own judge as to whether you think it's worthy of being purchased or not. You can buy it digitally, or you can also buy the Digipack version, which is a very beautifully sturdy done Digipack by Debemur Morti. These guys know exactly what they're doing when it comes to delivering packages. You can also buy the CD and 12-inch vinyl directly through the label. And if it is not up to you, if you're not interested in buying things from there, check Hell's Headbangers and Ominous Domain, because I believe they carry stuff domestically in North America for Blut Aus Nord. So feel free to check those websites out if you're able to acquire this. This is definitely mandatory purchasing. So I'm going to show you the album again. This is Saturnian Poetry, Memoria Vestusta, Saturnian Poetry by Blut Aus Nord. This is released on Debemur Morti Productions. Once again, mandatory purchasing, and I'm going to give this a very strong 9.5 out of 10. One of the best black metal albums of this year. Definitely a top 10 contender. Support Blut Aus Nord. I'm going to conclude this review. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for checking out my channel. And until the next time, Armijo out.